Hey everyone! This time on Tim Talks Audio, we continue our stock plugin series, this time going over Rotor. The Rotor plugin from Presonus models a Leslie organ cabinet, but you don't have to just throw an organ sound into this rotary speaker. And that's exactly what it's emulating, a rotary speaker. With the Leslie cabinets that this is kind of influenced by, there are two sets of speakers, one on top and one on bottom. On top are the horns, and they spin at one speed, and on bottom is the woofer, and that has a rotating fan that alters the sound of the low frequencies. This was all built into one cabinet when they made the cabinets, and now we can take this same effect in plugin form inside of our sessions. So let's go ahead and dive into the DAW and take a look at the controls and the sounds of Rotor. So here we go. Here is the Rotor plugin. Right now, I actually have it in bypass, but when I take it out of bypass or make the plugin active, you can see the speakers inside start to spin up, just like the Leslie cabinets that these were based on. So we can see the horns on top are spinning in one direction, and the woofer plate on bottom is spinning in the opposite direction. So let's go in and go over all of the controls, and we'll go from left to right. Now, first thing you're going to see is the on-off switch, but this isn't the same as bypassing the plugin. What this will actually do is turn off the rotation of the speakers, and it's not an instantaneous stop. There is a ramp down, which could be a really cool automated effect. Right now we're on, and if I turn it off, you'll see the horns and the woofers start to slow down, and eventually they will come to a stop. And this could be a really cool kind of ramp down effect for your productions. You can again turn it back on, and they will start to ramp up to speed, whether you have the speed set to slow or fast. And that's our next control just underneath it. There's two speeds, slow and fast. When you switch between the two speeds, it will ramp up or down to those speeds. It's not an instantaneous hit. So if you want a sound of that ramp up or down, you can go ahead and automate this as well. If not, when you're dialing in your sounds, just click it over to slow or fast, let it get the speed, and then adjust your sounds as you see fit. To the right of that is the state space amplifier section. In the Leslie cabinets, there was an amp built in, and in Rotor, we have a state space amp built in as well. The first control is the drive, and this is how much distortion is going to be added to this signal, giving a nice saturated sound. All the way down is very clean, and you can add in as much saturation as you want, going all the way up. Up next is the horn Q control, and this adds a nice mid-range peak that is very reminiscent of the Leslie speakers. They had this nice mid-range sound to them, and you can dial yours in with this control here. When the setting is lower, it's more of a flat sound, but you can increase that mid-range peak by adjusting this higher. And then underneath drive, you have the A and B toggle switches, and that's actually two different amplifiers that are built into the Rotor plugin. And it's giving you two different states of state space emulating technology. So it's two different amps. To the right of that are the position controls, and up first is distance. This is how close or far the virtual microphones are to the rotating speakers inside the cabinet. At a lower setting, the microphones are closer to the cabinet, and it gives you more of that pronounced movement of the rotating speakers. At a higher distance, the microphones are further away, and so that movement is a little bit more subtle, and it's actually diffused out in the virtual room as well. Up next is balance, and this is the balance between the horns on top and the high end of the cabinet and the woofer on bottom and the low end. So it's kind of like an EQ. It's just more highs or more lows. You'll still get the highs and lows, but which one are you emphasizing more? More towards the highs or more towards the lows? And next is spread, which adjusts the stereo width of the sound of the rotating speakers. At a lower setting, it's a much tighter kind of sound, and with a higher setting, it's a much more wide and diffused kind of sound. And then we go to the trim section. The two sliders on top are for the horn speed, and the two sliders on bottom are for the woofer speed. So the one on the top left is the slow speed for the horns, and on the right is the fast speed. So you can actually take the speed of the horn in the fast setting and make it much faster. And you can also take the speed of the horns in the slow setting and also make them faster or slower. This is the actual rotation speed. You can slow them way down or speed them way up. Or you can actually put these together and it's the same speed no matter what. So it allows you to really tailor the sound. If you want the horns at one speed, but you want the woofer to change a lot with the speed control, you can do that here. The controls for the woofer are the same. On the left is the slow speed, and on the right is the fast speed. So there we go. That's all of the controls for the Rotor plugin. Now let's get into how it sounds. Typically, a Rotor plugin is used on an organ type sound to really emphasize that movement. It's a sound we're all used to hearing. But that doesn't mean that's the only thing you have to use this plugin on. I've used this a bunch on acoustic guitars, electric guitars. We're going to use it on some pianos today, and it can make a really cool vocal effect as well. So let's take a listen to some examples. I actually have it on my piano bus right now. So I'm just going to solo, and I'm going to put the plugin into bypass so you can hear the piano on its own. Then we'll put it in and go through a couple presets. So you can hear what it's doing to the piano is doing some filtering, yes, but what it's also doing is creating a lot of movement and a lot of different new sounds on this piano. And that's just after going through a couple of the different presets that are in here. We can really kind of dial this in to make it really wide or really narrow, give it some drive or maybe a little bit of mid-range presence. So let's go ahead and dial some things in. I think I want a little bit of saturation from the amp, but not too much. And I do want to hear what the horn cue is going to do for this piano. So after a little bit of dialing it in, this is kind of a cool little piano sound. I might be able to use this for just a little piano interlude, or since this piano goes through the whole song, create a new kind of character for it. We could also throw a splitter tool in before this and blend the two together. That can make a whole new sound. But like we said before, you don't have to use this on just keyed instruments like organ or piano. Let's go ahead and take this one off of our piano and we'll switch over to our acoustic guitars. This is going to be a really crazy kind of sound, but again, maybe something new for your productions. So while I was letting the acoustic guitar go through, I was playing with turning the cab rotations off and on. So you can hear the ramp ups and ramp downs for actually turning on the rotation mechanism within the cabinet. So again, really cool sounds that you can use in your productions. Let's move on to something else. I have it on electric guitars, and here we go again. For the acoustic guitars, we dialed in a few things. For the electric guitars, we had everything still in default. The only thing we changed was the speed of the horns in the fast setting, and then we clicked it from slow to fast and let it ramp up. Then, like I said before, this could be a really cool vocal effect. I have the vocals soloed. We'll listen to them for a couple measures, and then we'll put this in again in its default settings.
I smell dead roses in your hair. Can you smell roses like candy in the air? Yeah.
So it adds a ton of movement to the vocals. It's almost like an auto pan where it's moving it from left to right and right to left. But it also has this EQ characteristic where it's filtered and a little bit more forward, kind of nasally, and we can dial these things in with the horn cue control and that stereo width with the position controls and really get this nice movement to our vocals that we probably wouldn't get without doing something like auto pan or pan automation.
I smell dead roses in your hair. Can you smell roses like candy in the air?
Very quickly going in and kind of maxing everything out to see what it can do gives a whole new kind of sound. And we took their horn cue control and just brought a little bit of mid-range forwardness to this. What I'm going to do real quick is throw a splitter in beforehand and make it a normal splitter. And now we have parallel processing. I can go ahead and blend in this rotor sound with the original sound. That's exactly what we're going to do.
I smell dead roses in your hair. Can you smell roses like candy in the air? Yeah.
So with the splitter tool, we're getting some parallel processing and we're bringing in some of that saturation on the amp section of the Rotor plugin. If we turn off most of the other things, we can just get some nice saturation out of that. So here we go. I've reset everything to default. I've turned the rotations off, left everything in its default position except for the amp section. We're just going to use the saturation and our state space modeling on this vocal. So let's go back to our splitter and we'll blend it in.
I smell dead roses in your hair. Can you smell roses like candy in the air? Yeah.
So there you go. That's the Rotor plugin from Presonus. Has state space modeling built right in, gets you that rotating speaker sound using just a plugin. You're able to adjust the distance and the speed of everything and the relative speed of fast and slow so you can get these nice ramp ups and slowdowns. What are some uses for Rotor that I haven't gone over that maybe you have used? That's all for now. If you found anything informative, please like and share the video. For more, visit timflansbaum.com. And if you have a question, ask it in the comments and I'll answer it in a future video. Thanks for watching.